Somewhere in the middle of the two extremes lies a world of open discourse. Probing the depths of the in-between. Welcome to Gray Matters Radio with your host, Michael Devine.
Good evening, everybody. Gray Matters Radio for the fifth installment, the fifth episode. I'm keep trying to figure out if we've been canceled or not, but I don't think we have. I mean, I still have a spot on the network and everything. So apparently what we're doing is actually kind of working. So I think that's good. Joining me in the studio today is kind of what I'm doing here. It's kind of like Survivor. Whenever you kind of do a new show, I had this whole idea of like, hey, it's just like me and my buddies hanging out, like drinking beers and having really deep discussions. And so, well, not everyone wants to be on the radio, but the ones who do, it's kind of like Survivor. And so every week we're having some new folks, seeing who likes it, who has a good job kind of doing it. And this week, I got Dominic Busilla, the CEO and co-founder of Hero USA. Dominic Busilla, my brother-in-law. Dom, welcome to the studio.
Well, hello, everybody out there in podcast world.
That's a good radio voice. Hello, everybody. So you're kind of getting it.
I was getting inspiration from Billy D over there on the wall.
Yeah, the gray, as I'm calling it, the gray studio. There's kind of this is like my little zen little area. So it's like some of my favorite concerts, and so we got some Hunter S. Thompson stuff up here. We got Billy D. Williams, Colt 45. It works every time. But welcome.
Thank
Studio,
you.
My man.
Thank you for the opportunity to join you.
I know. It's like, I guess we're going to let the people decide of whether or not they're actually going to like some of the things that we're putting out here, I guess, right?
I would say that's a good start.
It is a good start, you know? I mean, now if everyone kind of calls back and goes like, who in the hell is this, this jabroni that you've had on the air? Well, then it was fun for the first time. No family squabbles or anything like that. But I think Dom will be good. Dom has been on the radio or TV a bunch of times with Hero USA, so I imagine you're going to be okay.
That I have, yes.
Yeah. So did you have a good weekend?
I actually had a really great weekend.
Yeah, what did you do this weekend? Yeah.
Well,
aside from getting angry at Ohio State, just playing like fucking Nebraska.
I actually enjoyed the Saturday day, kind of hanging out watching the game myself. Celebrated one of my very best life friends' 50th birthday Saturday night. Surprise party, worked flawlessly. Not only was he super surprised, but even on top of it, I know sometimes surprise birthday parties don't always go as planned because they're not happy about the surprise.
I mean, have you ever really been to a surprise party that went off without the hitch?
I've been a victim of the surprise party and was a little taken back. It was cool, but I wasn't the oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. But Bill, God love him, was so excited that we were all there. Seeing him as happy as he was for the surprise made all the difference.
Well, it's kind of like when we went out to dinner a couple weeks ago, and it was my dad's birthday, and we were like, "Hey, it's for a surprise." It's for. And my dad's. I'm like, "Dude, don't do that.
Oh, no.
Nah, you don't surprise a Vietnam veteran."
Yeah, Dad wasn't having it.
No, you just don't do that. But it's so a nice little surprise kind of party. It sounds like it was a lot of good fun.
It was great.
Yeah, my wife and I went to Elton John on Friday. Yeah, dude, he killed it. Guy's like, I don't know, like 97 years old. I don't even know.
He looks damn good,
dude.
Though.
He tore it up, man. I mean, literally, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I love me some Elton John, but dude, he tore it up and everything. I mean, really. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Whenever I go to a concert, maybe we drink a lot, and so of course you get all ethereal, start
happy.
Happy. You start thinking about stuff because hey, I mean, you're with a lot of people, right? Everyone's on that same wavelength, and so it was interesting because I've been to a lot of concerts this year. I've been, I went to Dave Matthews out in Gorge Amphitheater. I mean, who doesn't love that? Mumford and Sons, see Elton John. We saw Phil Collins a couple weeks ago. And I don't know why it dawned on me. Maybe it's because I'm doing the radio show and everything. But it was interesting. There's like a lot of these times when people are, they're cheering. They're all like screaming, singing along with the songs. And what was interesting was that, okay, so different parts of the country, completely different bands, right? But do you know what the sound, a crowd sounds like from one concert to the next?
Sure, of course.
Sounds exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's the same sound, right?
Music is the great equalizer.
It's a great equalizer. And I was sitting there going, it's funny how everyone so much right now is about being like identified. Oh, it's I'm this, it's amazing, man. Like, everybody just really gets in this mindset of everyone's being divided into groups. I mean, think about our political, parties right now. And then hell, we have, I don't know if anyone realized it, we have voting, tomorrow, and this shit show of a midterm of an election. And, and one of the biggest things that we kind of keep going in and talking about is immigration, right? And it's really, this whole debate that we have in this country now is really bringing out the worst, I think, in us. We're all dividing us by color, country of origin, hell, even political parties.
Sure.
I personally think that the Republicans and Democrats should just change their colors to the baby blue Crips and the blood red. Because literally, it's almost like Bloods and Crips going after each other.
There's a lot to be said about that analogy.
Dude, it's like gang affiliations, right? But the thing is, what stood out to me was that when we're individuals, we all sound different. If anything, we're being forced to make ourselves even more different. But then when we're all kind of just together, all for the same exact things, we all sound exactly the same. It's the same voice, 100,000 people, 50,000 people. It all sounds exactly the same. I don't know. It just got me kind of thinking just about, talking about like, hey, we got to bring the country together. And it's like, well, the irony is that when we all speak together, we're not black, we're not white, we're not, Hispanic, we're not red, we're not blue, we're not Democrat. We're all the freaking same. And I don't know. It just dawned on me. It just hit me all of a sudden that it's like, how far, we've come as a country, and not in a good way. I don't know. How do you kind of view this, man? I've had a lot of conversations.
I've really enjoyed the analogy you just used and the metaphor about music and being at a concert. It could be, and like you said, it's not really about where you're at or who even the artist is, but you look at the demographic of a concert, and there's so many different people there. And on the street, you may not talk to that person. You may be scared of that person. There would be a myriad of things that may prevent you from having any interaction with that person whatsoever. But you happen to be sitting next to him at this certain concert. You're going to be friends for the 2.5 hours you're sitting there to celebrate music, which is an innate feeling that as humans we can't deny. There's a rhythm of life, and music is there, and it's one of those few places that still exist where regardless of who, what, where, when, why, or how, you go into that place and celebrate. Even if it's for a short time, you may walk out of that place and part your ways with whoever that person was. However, at least for that short amount of time, you can share in that feeling, and then that's what's missing. So how do we take that, as you pointed out, that it sounds the same everywhere?
I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, and you go there, literally, you're hugging people. You don't go and hug a South Philly person. No, you don't do that.
That's true.
But guess what? That playoff game, dude, everyone was hugging. Everyone was high-fiving. Total stranger. Literally.
Whether they're red or blue, it doesn't matter.
It don't matter, right? And it's amazing when we're all united towards one thing, a band, a team, right? Even when it's out of anger and jest, we all are moving together, and that's where I think it's so disconcerting, so just messed up where we're at as a country with how divided we are along every single line, and you can't help to note the irony that one of the biggest debates going on right now during this election is immigration.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's interesting because growing up in Ohio, we didn't have that many Hispanic people working. Literally, I think most of it I had was working like construction jobs, working in some kitchens. And it's not to say that's where all Hispanic people work or whatever, but it's just there wasn't that much here than moving down to Texas for so many years. It's so ingrained in the culture. It's literally, there's Mexican guys, they call themselves Tejanos, and literally it's like a Texas and person X who's we're about to introduce you in a few seconds, like literally proud Tejano. It's like they've meshed Texas and Mexican together, and then being proud basically of it. And Yeah, and that's where it's just crazy to me that this whole debate has kind of gone, and how vilified, immigrants have become, legal and illegal immigrants.
Oh, sure, both.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy to me is because the stuff that I hear people say in private, whether it be at the bar, whether it be in my office, it's just kind of like, okay, like, is this like an alternative universe? Did I get drunk one night and fall and hit my head? I'm in like in a different. I don't know. I don't get it.
The hardest thing to think about, and sometimes I want to go back to this when this topic gets brought up, what most people may not take 2 seconds to even think about is everybody in this country is an immigrant.
Yeah. That's the
at the core of what it is and what our country exists for. We are all immigrants somehow, some way.
That is the craziest thing, is that the laws that they're proposing, how many people in Congress right now wouldn't even be here because of that? Now, I'm not being naive. Okay, obviously there's an issue kind of going on.
Sure.
And it's so there's so many different facets to this, but and the DNA of the show is about humanizing each other, even if you think differently than that. And that's where I thought it was a great way of kicking off this discussion. Now, on Thursday's show, we're going to have my dad back again. 'Cause my dad, literally, he's a history guy. I mean, literally, he taught history. And so one of the things we're going to talk about actually is the U.S. policies over the last 40 years that have actually created the socio-political economic issues that is actually causing people to leave en masse from the countries that they're in. So it's kind of funny and ironic how we're sitting there pointing the finger at Central America, Latin America, Mexico. But the reality is that we've had policies that have literally created the dynamics. And it's the same thing that happened during 9/11. We're sitting there being all angry about, 9/11 and Al-Qaeda. But then, lo and behold, it's like, oh, yeah, like we trained bin Laden to fight the Russians, and it was blowback. And so once again, you do notice a lot of things happening in this country where it's almost like blowback from some policies. And so we're going to talk about that on Thursday. So, I mean, tonight's show is not about that.
It's always easier to point the finger at an exterior source instead of confronting the issue for what it may be and where your role in that issue may be.
Well, and that's the problem. I think our country is so divided. And I think if you really look at the problems that we have, it's so complicated. You need both sides to work with each other. But as long as they're divided, you're not there's no way anybody is going to enact any legislation that's going to stand a chance of fixing anything. And it is such a multifaceted issue. But the thing is, you have to first care about people. Literally, you have to care about people first to do something about it. And that's what's happened. They have dehumanized people, our Latin American and Mexican friends, that they're almost like subhuman. They're animals. If anything, they're like invasive species almost that we have to exterminate and put up a wall. I mean, almost like they're termites, and we're calling the Orkin Man. I mean, that's how I feel. What's basically happened and what they've done in it, and it's egregious and it's awful. And it's not to say everything is perfect. It's not, once again, not a bleeding heart liberal saying, "Hey, yes, come one, come all," but it is about, all right, this bullshit has to stop with like dehumanizing, all these immigrants, because everyone has a story. And we have to get back to that. We have to get back to caring who these people are, because I put myself, what if the situations were reversed with Jill and Eleanor and you and Lisa? If it was a big piece of shit here, and then I would take my family there. I would look to that place where I thought they were going to have a better future. I don't care what I would have to do. So let's start introducing our guest a little bit. So this person is only going to be known as Person X. Let's call them Person X. This person has a really interesting story. And a story that I think needs to be told, because it's a story that I think a lot of people wouldn't realize that this could be their neighbor. This could be a coworker. This could be someone they go to church with. This could be someone that's a friend. Not realizing how easy it is for things to go in a certain direction. And so everyone has a story. And so Person X, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. So Person X now, the reason why we have to call them Person X is because, well, frankly, they do have some immigration status kind of issue. I don't even know the right terminology. It's almost like I'm afraid I'm going to call the wrong thing and and offend this person. So person X, if I say something really stupid like illegal immigrant, or what do they call it now?
Illegal immigrant.
Because you're not
illegal
person X is not an
alien.
immigrant.
There's so many names.
Yeah. So whatever. What should we call your status?
How about
person X.
How about an American?
They are an American with some status issues.
How about that?
Yeah, my legal status is in limbo. Like, I am a permanent resident, but it's in limbo.
And so this person
X
is,
what you could say.
Yeah, and I think person X, like, and once again, I thank you so much for coming on the show, because by coming on the show, I know what I'm asking of you is real scary because your status is in limbo. But in the same breath, though, when I was talking to her about just what we're trying to do, her story was so powerful, and it's like, okay, this needs to get out, and I think it is so cool that you're willing to come out here and tell the story and try to get people to understand what is really going on, put basically some heart and emotion behind this rhetoric that's going on out there. So thank you for having the balls to come on this show and do that. I think it's awesome, and we'll take really good care of you. So now, I guess where I'd like to start, would you mind going into your story? Now, I know you can't say everything 100% with what so please speak in generalities, but could you at least give an idea of your story? How old you were when you came to the country? Just walk us forward just a little bit and give some background to who you are and why your story, I think, is so unique.
Okay, so my mother brought me here when I was 9 months old, basically in the early 80s. So she was able to qualify for the President Reagan's amnesty thing that he had in 86 for illegal aliens that had been here for a while. So that's how we were able to obtain our green cards. Then eventually, we worked our way to getting our permanent residencies. And I never really took in mind at that time. I mean, I was, like I said, 9 months old. So, I lost my mom at a young age. I didn't think, it's important for me to finish high school and try to become a citizen. That's not something I'm thinking in high school. So I never really understood how critical it would be for me to actually change my legal status to become a U.S. citizen until I myself found myself in a situation. I worked for an employer. Basically, we did what we had to do, and I guess greed took the best of everyone. And when push came to shove, they washed their hands clear and basically said, "Oh no, we didn't do anything. It's all them. They were the ones pushing the buttons, and they knew, So of course, I at that moment didn't have money to say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take it to trial." No, I'm not. I'm going to defend myself because this is a lie or anything like that. So I got into some federal issues, and now my legal status, because I was never a citizen, is in limbo. I can't try to apply to become a citizen because, I've been told this is something bad, and through immigration's eyes, it's the worst thing I could have done. And, I'm basically the sole provider of my home. My husband's a U.S. citizen. My children are U.S. born. And imagine, not knowing what tomorrow brings. And that's how so many immigrants possibly feel, because now I myself can put myself in that shoe and this is what it is to somewhat live in fear and not know what will happen tomorrow. Will I have somebody come and knock on my door? Will they pick me up from work? So being sent back to a country where I don't know nothing about, I mean, I can speak Spanish, but it's not the perfect Spanish and it's not fluent. So
what would happen?
That's where I'm at.
So let's say like the worst case scenario happened. I mean, would they just take you and then your kids and your husband would stay behind? I mean, like what actually have they told you?
They haven't told me anything. I mean, of course they couldn't take my kids, or, couldn't force them. And I wouldn't want my husband to go into that situation because, like I said, he's never known that. So, I think if it were to happen that way, I would be like so many other of these people that you see on TV or you read about that they've been here for 20 plus years and they're being deported and they don't know what to do. And, it's, I don't know, I would be lost basically if that were to happen.
I mean, Dominic, think about it. We're talking about somebody who has you've been here your whole life, come over here at 9 months. It's the only life that you've ever really known. And literally all it takes is like one thing to kind of happen, and all of a sudden, boom, that's it. To not know, I mean, literally you're all you've known 9 months, you have an American husband, your children are Americans, and because you work for a company that totally screwed you over, that had it set up from the get-go to let you be the fall guys, because you didn't have the money then to go after and defend yourself, all this can kind of happen. All of a sudden, status in limbo.
My heart is weighing heavy right now for you, Person X, as I listen to, and as we talked prior to coming on air and understanding briefly about, your story and your situation, but actually hearing you speak those words, I'm trying to empathize with what that fear would be like. Wow.
Yeah. And now, Person X, what are your options at this point, given everything that's kind of happened? I mean, I imagine is there attorneys that you've worked with to try to figure out what your next steps are? I mean, is there a way out of it, or is it just stay in limbo?
I've been to several. All have basically told me, no, we can't take the case. And I do have an attorney now, but it's like a waiting game, and especially since this situation basically happened almost towards the ending of Obama. So with immigration laws changing, as you can see, so many things that want to be implemented in this presidency, even my attorney's like, it's just you don't know what we should do if we want to take a step and try to see if we can fix the citizenship papers or not, because it changes day by day. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, it could be where I file my paperwork and it's like, hey, yeah, do it. And then, oh no, 3 months later, this is the new law that's going to be implemented. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, look at these dreamers that throughout the Obama, they were told, put your information, we're going to give you this opportunity. And here comes this new president, and he's like, nope, we're deporting them all.
Well, one of the things I think is really interesting, one of the things she said was that under Reagan is when her family came here. And
yes.
Think about it. Ronald Reagan is basically the golden child of the conservative movement. The interesting thing that really seemed like the most compassionate of all of them. I mean, it's a total 180. And so it almost is mind-boggling to me that under Reagan, the immigration laws actually were pretty legit, and it was actually very open and welcoming. And yet here's now a party where it's crazy to me. But then in the same breath, though, now Person X, under Obama, from my understanding, he wasn't very kind for legal and illegal immigration. Am I correct?
Correct, but he did give these kids at the time, high schoolers,
DACA,
or
right?
what you were certain, the DACA people,
okay.
The dreamers. He gave them this opportunity to be able to get jobs, get Social Securities, get driver's license, be able to go to college. And I mean, even though he wasn't the best president for like on the immigrant side, basically, he gave them the opportunity to prove themselves. And I mean, they have all the information either way it goes. They're in the system now. So why try to take it away when some of them have proven themselves very well? They're business owners. They've graduated college with, all these, some of them wonderful degrees, and they've lived that American dream that their parents came over here for. And it's, kind of like now this president wants to take it away. But like I said, Obama wasn't either on their side either, but he gave them that opportunity. That's all that's needed is an opportunity.
And I almost think that you, in a way, fit that same type of description you just used, that you came over here as a 9-month-old and you don't know anything different. So just like you have become and are an American for all intents and purposes, the paper may not say it, but you've gone through the system and you work and you contribute and you have taxes. A family and you have children. And
oh, yeah.
So, and just like these kids, like for all intents and purposes, you are an American and you've done what, as you said, the American dream is supposed to be, which is what our country was ultimately founded on, going all the way back to when the first immigrants came to our country.
Well, technically
to make a better life.
And doing everything that people have asked. Get a job, pay taxes. And what Person X is saying is that, shit, that's what I am doing. I've been here a whole life. I work, I have kids, I pay taxes, and it's like, sorry, that's not good enough. Or that it's, and that's what's crazy is that these are the laws and the way they're kind of set up. And this is where, like, a lot of times I get really frustrated because how can we have an honest conversation in this country about any issue when people are taking a side of an issue that really has nothing to do about the issue? Because if you really look at a lot of Democrats didn't really give a crap about immigration, right? They didn't give a crap until Donald Trump started opening his mouth about immigration. So then you almost get a sense that so many Democrats have jumped in on this issue and made it big because it's more about anti-Trump, which then backs Trump supporters more into a corner of, well, now I'm going to double down on this. Well, they double down, and then they double down, and now we've gotten it to where with the caravan that's coming up, they're all. It's like they've already started following lawsuits to allow themselves in, and they're having donors that are doing this to make things look bad. Now, Person X, you were basically saying that this whole caravan issue is not like some thing that just started brand new. It's been going on for years, correct?
Yeah, for many years. I mean, like I said, look at these people that came in the 80s. You know what I mean? This is history. Like, people came on boats. This is not just something that just happened overnight. I mean, these caravans that you hear now, the larger numbers, they're coming because, of the fear of they don't know what's going to happen next. So this is the time, and the larger caravans come with mostly poverty-stricken people that can't afford to pay a coyote, a smuggler, basically, to bring them. None of these people that are in these caravans can afford $6,000, $10,000 to cross through the border. And
are
at
they
that,
even paying much attention to the politics of it? I mean, do they even really know all the crap that's going on, or do they have a decent idea and being influenced by it? I've always been curious about that.
I think what I've heard, I think that they know, but a lot of people are just basically winging it. Like, oh, I have faith in God. Everything's going to work out fine. I think that's what's going to happen. I think also this last, I want to say maybe 6 months ago, the caravan that came from Mexico, where it's been all over the news, where the children were separated from the mother, from the parents, basically put in different camps. I think that, yes, it was a tragic situation of them being separated, but I think that kind of made them feel like, oh, well, if these people were at least here on the soil, and they're in camps, well, we can come. And even if we have to go through that, it's okay, because we're not over there
Well, that was the most fascinating thing when we were talking off the air, Person X. One of the things that you were talking about was the policies that are being enacted are actually making the problem worse. You were talking about basically how it's creating more fear, which makes more people stay in the shadows, which means then they're staying illegal and undocumented longer, and more really drawing resources without paying and gain taxes, or it's making it to where it almost seems like they're coming more. Oh, wow, like, well, everything's going to be fine. They're on U.S. soil. We're going to be good. So speak to that a little bit, because that was an angle I have not heard at all about the rhetoric is making the situation worse.
Well, a lot of people, they don't understand that, like I said, they're coming in these caravans and they're like, okay, we're here. They're going to hear our plea. We're running away from domestic violence. We're running away from the gangs, or, they're coming from Mexico. The cartels are taking over my town. They don't see any other options than to do this. And even if it comes to where they get here and, I've heard of people, that have said, oh, well, I got allowed to stay here. I came through a worker's visa, but I'm just going to disappear. And do I agree with that? No, because you're making it worse for everybody else that's sacrificing everything to come over here. Like some of these people in these caravans are probably coming over here with good intentions. I'm pretty sure everyone's coming over here with a good intention, but you're going to have those bad apples that are going to hide, take advantage of the system, and that's the sad part about it. If maybe more I don't know how to say it. If more people, if more money was contributed to maybe Homeland Security to help these people and make sure that they're properly registered, documented, and they don't fall between the cracks and disappear, maybe you wouldn't be faced with this situation. Maybe these people wouldn't be able to disappear, and maybe some of these people would be able to contribute to the economics of the United States.
Sure, and you put it in a way that makes sense for me, that when you talk about most of these people come here with good intentions, and for me, I believe most human beings have good intentions. Yes, they're bad apples, but that isn't an immigration issue. It isn't a black and white issue. It isn't. There's bad apples no matter what. There's going to be some person that doesn't have those good intentions. But I believe in humanity, and I believe that most people, as you put it, they're coming here with good intentions of finding a better life for themselves, for their children, for their families. And if given the opportunity to do it in a way that is legal and does, satisfy the bureaucratic machine of our country that has to be there, they would do that if given the right opportunity to do so. And then, as you said earlier, without that support and without that help, they do just kind of fall through the cracks and go into obscurity and live off the radar. And it's not necessarily what they wanted to do, or maybe what their intentions were. However, the broken system itself has lended to that result, and so it's just merely cause and effect.
Well, think about what Person X is basically saying. I've never ever heard somebody in their situation basically go, no, like, I am kind of angry when people try to come in here and sneak in and not do it the right way. You're kind of screwing it up for all of us, right? Correct. So, and then they hear and go, no, put more resources into Homeland Security. I mean, think about what she just said. Mm-hmm. Put more money in Homeland Security so people can come in and do it the right way.
Correct.
That is mind-boggling. But that, once again, that's not the narrative that Fox News, and CNN, are basically all of them are putting out there. This is a radically different kind of viewpoint of immigration in this country right now.
Well, and the interesting thing is neither party is addressing that of maybe it's a mismanagement of funds.
Now, Person X, do you feel as though the Democrats are using the immigration debate for their own gain? Like, do you think they really do care, or do you think they're using it completely just to look better?
I think both parties, honestly, are using it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
It's a give or take. Oh, who's going to make you feel? I mean, everybody. It's midterm elections. Everybody's going to use this for their own personal gain. If you get more supporters on the Democratic side, yes, we're going to take power of the House.
Are they really trying to? Are they really trying to register? Because I think that's the narrative that a lot of conservatives say, is that it's all about bringing more illegals so they can vote. I mean, is that even true? I have no idea. So, Person X, is there any validity to that?
I have not heard of that, and I'm pretty sure even if they're bringing more immigrants to vote, you have to be a U.S. citizen to even have any kind of word in this.
I don't get that at all. Because what you're basically saying is that if you are afraid to go and make yourself legal because of your situation, I can't imagine an immigrant wanting to go and sign up and register to vote and go and vote. Maybe I don't know if maybe I'm not seeing it.
Myself.
I mean, if they are, they're gonna find themselves in
exactly.
A heap of trouble.
It makes no sense to me. And so when you hear all this, does it make your head explode? I mean, hearing some of the bullshit that's being out there on both sides.
Definitely. I mean, like I said, until one of these parties decides to say, hey, I'm going to put my foot down and this is what's going to happen, unfortunately right now it has to be the Republican side. But until somebody actually puts their foot down and says, this is what's going to happen, here's this opportunity and prove yourselves. And, like I said, Reagan wanted to implement this, the Simpson-Mazzoli law, and
I didn't know that one.
And he gave these three, I think they were 3 or 5, I don't know, I'm not sure. I want to say 5 million, I'm not sure. Immigrants, the opportunity to say, hey, you were here you need to prove yourself that you've been working, you've been doing this, and we'll give you a legal status. I mean, if either of these parties decided to do that same thing, I mean, go back in history and do a little bit of what this president tried to do in the mid 80s, then I bet you it'll be a good outcome for either or party. Sure. But until they actually do that, it's all talk from both sides.
And I think even, and again, going back to what you said earlier, that most people, not only the immigrants coming in here, but most people have good intentions. And if given the choice to do good and contribute and help and be part of something, if given that choice without any ramifications, most people are going to take that opportunity to do good to their fellow person, regardless of heritage, of religious beliefs, of any of that. From a humanity standpoint, we're wired to do what makes us feel good and do what makes other people feel good.
Well, even maybe it makes too much sense that if you have so many people that would actually, and now Person X, because I always had this thought of, even if it wasn't quote unquote citizenship per se, okay, regardless, but if they could come here, pay taxes, make money, may not be, would that even be a realistic? Because I'd look at, wouldn't that pay for all the resources that I think people say that, illegal immigrants are using at the expense of everybody else? That would technically pay for itself that they're paying taxes. Now, Person X, is that naive thinking on my part? What would people do if that was an option?
Wishful thinking, I think. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so what? Sure. So what really is a solution then? Because I mean,
to tell you the truth, go ahead.
No. I mean, what is the solution to this?
I mean, the solution. I mean, I think we talked about this yesterday, and I called some people and I said, hey, what would have to happen in order for you guys, I said it that way. Yeah, I'm sorry. To have changed, go back home and not, decide to come this way. Well, if there was more opportunity over there, it's too corrupt over there. And, I think it would take that. Now, if, like I told you yesterday, it's really hard for anyone even to come and get a visitor's visa, let alone a working permit.
Yeah,
you have to have money in order.
It was on Anthony Bourdain the other night where there was somebody there, the daughter was an American, but her fiance was Mexican, and he literally lived right across the river, okay? But because he couldn't get a visa in the right way, he had to go from where they were at all the way to California to get into the country for him to be denied, like a 10-hour round trip. And then technically it would be a 20-minute hop across the river. Yeah, can't get it.
Yeah.
And so
no, it's true.
And that's what's interesting. If everything is about, well, we don't want you here. And I think what you're saying, or what people that have come over here basically, no, we'd love to go home. It's corrupt. It's the cartels are running everything. And that was something that was interesting. You were talking about yesterday about, well, why is it that way over there? Why isn't the politicians just don't start enacting laws? And you were saying it's all cartel run. Help our listeners understand why it's so messed up over there.
Well, for Central America, it's more gangs. They have to pay those quotas. Oh wait, I'm going to charge you $2,000 if you want to see to live. If you want to see another day. These people, the resources are low, so, they don't work. I mean, if they work in Central America, I asked someone and he said, you make about $10 a day. I mean, imagine living off of $10 a day.
It's not possible.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, $10. I can't even waste $10 on lunch, and let alone live all day, And for people in Mexico, the cartels have basically, they were telling me that they have taken over everything. The government, the police, some towns make their own justifications. Like if somebody is doing something, gets caught doing something, they'll take it in their own hands, because why call the federales if they're all going to just basically say, oh, well, okay, we'll take you with us, give us some money, and we'll let you go in the next town. Wow. It's just so corrupt that, the opportunity is not there. In Mexico, you make, what was he telling me? He said, you make about, depending on what town, I'm not speaking of Mexico City, but depending on what little town that you're in, you possibly make the most $16, $20 a day, and for some of these people don't even want to work because they know if some people might, they have little lookouts. Oh, this person's working. Well, let's get some money out of him. So why work if they're going to take your money from you anyway?
That's so messed up.
Yeah, you don't. It's earlier you used about the parties being like Bloods and Crips. It's kind of like that over there. If you're not one of us, then you're going to pay up.
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize MS-13 started in L.A. Because it was kind of similar. Now, personally, you may know this better than I would. I know, in Cuba, they had the big where they opened up the jails and sent everyone over here. And I believe it was in the it was in the late 80s, early 90s. It was Guatemala, a lot of the Central American countries where they had a lot of them resettled over here. And, of course, they were in Compton and East LA, and they picked up the gang tactics that the Bloods and Crips were using. Mm-hmm. And then when they went back home, they brought literally that brand of, that's literally where MS-13 came from. They literally picked it up from our urban ghettos. Crazy.
Yeah, that is true. It's ironic, but
it sucks. And now what about Mexico, though? So I think Latin America, okay, that one really makes sense. Like, okay, that is just a train wreck right now, and it's only getting worse. We'll go on Thursday's show. We'll go more into the U.S. role in some of those policies. But what is the deal in Mexico? Because all right, so they should have a thriving economy. So what's going on there? That's why they don't want to stay there.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Mexico has like the best soil. You know what I mean? Soil, gold, silver. They,
amazing workforce.
It's just, yeah, but it's money. The resources aren't there. You know, I mean, if you don't have money to go to school, send your kids off to college and finish high school and be able to get a degree, then you're really going to be like in sort of saying, busting your ass to make a mere, maybe $100, $200 a week, you know? And I mean, it's basically below minimum wage. And so going back to what you said,
sorry, going back to what you said earlier, that's enough to potentially have a Mexican citizen who may not want to leave their home, may not want to leave their family, their extended families behind. They will come to our country, I don't want to say against their will, but that's not what they want. They would prefer to stay home with their loved ones and everybody, but yet they have no choice but to come here to try to, you know, better themselves and take care of their families.
Yeah, and it's true. And that, you know, I've known, you know, men are the ones that leave, and you know, they come over here, work, and send their money for their families, so they can, you know, save up and build homes and, you know, get the resources that they don't have over there. But you know, now you see women leaving their children behind with the husbands, or, you know, sending the child off, like, hey, you go across the border and see what you can, you know, gain off of this.
Think about, like,
it's just,
imagine splitting up your family. I mean, we're not talking about, hey, I'm gonna go down to Texas and work for a little bit. We're talking, no, like, we're splitting up the family. I mean, that's crazy, you know, to me, and no wonder why people, you know, are coming here. And I think Person X, you kind of said, it's like a land of opportunity. Yeah, they may not want us there, but it's like, what else better option do I have? But then, as you said, though, the law, they wouldn't even be here if they knew things were good there.
Oh yeah, they would in a heartbeat. I've known so many people that are like, oh, I don't like it here, you know. They come over here thinking this is, you know, in a sense, you have more opportunity. School, you know, public school. Over there, you have to pay for your school. The resources, there's job opportunities. I've known people that have come out here, and their children are really good students over there, but they come over here and they get lost. And it's like, if I didn't have to be here, I wouldn't be here. I've lost my child. They're into drugs. They're doing this. You know, not everybody's situation, but situations that I've known of, you know, they would in a heartbeat go back. But because they have other children or because they need to provide, they stay here. I've known people that, oh, my child's out of high school, or my child just graduated college, I'm going back home. I came, did what I had to do, my purpose is served, I'm going back home.
Gosh. It just, and that's, there's so many problems, I think, with so much of our country, it seems like, where we don't want to solve anything, where it's like, well, that's their problem. Why do we have to put money into it? But, and this is where I wish I was a government budget person, but it's like, think about it. Okay, like, what if we actually spent time, energy, and effort, you know, actually helping address the underlying issues that are causing people to want to come here in the first place? What would the money be saved by actually getting people to work and pay taxes?
It goes back to the ingrained mentality that our government has had, like the war on this, the war on that, the war on this, the war on that. Like, instead of putting money towards the potential solution, they want to try to fight and fix the problem. Well, okay, if the problem's already existing, instead of trying to fight against it, how about let's put those resources on how to fix it? So the war on drugs. Okay, you can fight it, but maybe put some of that money that you waste fighting against it to help creating some solutions.
The UN said the war on drugs actually not only was it a colossal failure, it actually ended up contributing more to the problem.
There you go. And so we're going down that same road now with this immigration issue of, okay, so instead of spending however many millions and or billions of dollars that are going to go to build this huge wall and hire all these new ICE agents, and not that I want to, de-advocate, anybody who...
Everything has a place. And a purpose.
And I don't want to de-advocate for our law enforcement by any means, but at the same time, like, there has to be some responsible spending to say, okay, there's going to be some bad folks that, as you put it, Person X, some bad apples that come through, but that's no different than any bad apples that are a born American citizen that are also causing issues here.
And here's what's even crazy.
It's all humanity.
What people don't realize is the economic factors, right? I have clients that are in agriculture, and and they were to go, if you were just to get rid of all the immigrants, they go, look back, Person X, you might know a little bit, it was called Operation Wetback. It was like, I think, 1970s in California, where the ICE decided just to get rid of all the illegal immigrants working the fields in California. And lo and behold, half the crops rotted because there's no one there to pick it. Mm-hmm. Prices went up because the people who did come in were sky high. And that's literally what these are hardcore Texas conservatives that have kind of told me. And people here in Ohio have all said the same thing, is that we can't find Americans that want to do this job.
There you have it.
And the thing, even if we paid them triple, they're not going to do it, which means that if you really were to get rid of all these people, not realizing all your prices are going to go up, we're going to have so much rot, basically. You talk to anyone that works in construction, you get the same damn thing. And it's like, oh, they're taking our jobs. But the reality is, like, well, what jobs are they're doing the jobs that a lot of Americans don't want to do.
Sure.
And then and it's like, you have to be weary of what you wish for. Do they really have an idea of what would happen if everyone just went up and left? And then what Person X is saying is that you actually fix the problem. They're going to be like, deuces, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. Like, I'm going to go back home. Like, and it's like, it's crazy, And so, but the thing is, to fix a problem, you have to have an understanding of it. And Person X, have you heard one thing any politician or media person said that is at all even accurate about what the real problem is?
No, I don't think so.
It's like, no. How do you?
And is it that the great disconnect with our system here in place in the United States is that we have these elected officials or supposedly elected officials. We'll just preface that for another conversation.
Yeah.
But we have these supposedly elected officials that are supposed to be, representing their constituents in any given community. Are they out there talking to folks? Are there public forums where we can actually sit down and have a conversation with any of these people who are controlling all of our policies, controlling all of our laws? These people in D.C. that, have risen up there into the whole political arena of D.C. Are they listening to Person X? Are they listening to you and I?
No.
They might be, but...
I mean,
even if they were, what is their motivation for creating change? Because if it comes down to them losing their power position, unfortunately, as we all think we understand how that exists, and again, from the outside looking in, we still don't really know.
Well, think about if a Republican were to come out and basically go, "No, I think we need to be human here, guys." They're going to be, "Oh, you're naive, you're whatever." But then as a Democrat were to go, "Hey, listen, we got to crack down on this."
Yeah, they get ostracized by their gang affiliates, as you would say.
But think about it. I mean, that's the environment.
They would be like, okay, you need to take some time off, or you're going to be taken out of your seat.
That's the environment that we're in right now. If you really think about it, think about it isn't maybe a really shitty kind of analogy, but think about it. If a teenager doesn't have any understanding on the mechanics of a car, doesn't really seem to care about investing in oil changes and brake, what happens to that car? The car The car blows up. The car so think about it. So we're in an environment where people don't have any understanding of the real issues, right? What they do understand is completely wrong and put through this prism of just fill in the blank. And then on top of that, no one cares. People are dehumanized. And then so why? And that's a recipe for nothing will get done. But that's what conversations like this are about. You know, how many things did you learn about immigration status today that you didn't even know before?
Several.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, I interviewed Person X.
Thank you, Person X.
Yeah, I interviewed Person X beforehand, and then she went in through and brought things up that I never had an understanding of, and that's what we're supposed to do, right? Talk to each other.
The sad thing is that even that is the thing that we're supposed to do, but you have so many parties that are against whatever, you know, and that even if you try to have that sit down and have a rally about it, you're going to have so many people, you know, not letting you come through. You're going to have people, you know, not letting you speak, and you're going to have people that are going to be, you know, fighting, and it's just going to turn out into a big old brawl, and it's sad. That's how it's gotten. But I will let you know something else. This morning I was watching some interviews of people that have been on the El Paso Juarez border waiting. They weren't able to come in yesterday, so they are letting them register, come in, you know, document, and they're being put into these camps. They interviewed a family of Cubans. Now, I thought it was weird because, you know, you're hearing that it's Salvadorian and Honduras and Guatemala people that are coming through, and yes, some Mexicans are coming in as well, but Cuba, like, I thought, God, why are you coming from El Paso when, if anything, why didn't you come through Brownsville or Laredo? And they're saying that there's a lot of Cuban people that are coming along as well. There was a group of Russians that was with that particular group, Russian kids at that.
So, all right. So now part of the network that we're on, Chris, you know, the dudes in beer, he's real big. He's kind of like, you know, trying to take the mantle from Art Bell, if you remember Coast to Coast AM. All right. So now Chris and I'm like kind of like the conspiracy theories, but the scientific one. Chris is, I love conspiracy theories, right? This one kind of falls in that thing of where when people are talking about, well, the Russians are coming in, the Arabs and whatever. But what Person X is kind of telling us, so it's like, well, yeah, there is some shenanigans, as we want to call it, going on. And is that's kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. You know what? When I started thinking at first, when all this was happening, these caravans, I had my own little conspiracy theory that, you know, I guess because I've never really known I'm not a U.S. citizen. I've never had I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. I'm with the guy that has a good speech and is going to say is promising change. That's who I'm with. I'm not, you know, I don't know what party that would be, but
the Great
I guess.
Now the thing is, do you like Beto? Now Beto is kind of, a lot of people love them some Beto. So what do you think of Beto?
Honestly,
oh come on, this is it. This is
I fear Beto.
Really?
Because I really do.
Why is that?
He's wanting a change where, yes, he wants to get rid of immigration or whatever, ICE, and but he also wants to do federal backgrounds on everyone, not just state backgrounds. Now that could affect me because if my employer, my situation, I have a federal case, so I could potentially lose my job.
Wow.
If that's what he's trying to do.
So what
that's
Person X is basically
fear.
saying that, you know, just because Beto is Beto and because of her situation, like, no, this guy, it's not a blind vote, pretty much. That Beto is not all sunshine and rainbows, basically.
Mm-mm.
It's just interesting.
I mean, he is. You know what? And obviously, I would be okay with that.
But he skateboards,
But
though.
I
He
guess
loves
I fear
skateboarding.
for
I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
I like to skateboard too. However,
how do you not like a guy that skateboards?
There's that.
I guess from my end, I fear for my spot, and and nobody put me in the situation other than myself. So I gotta, basically, this is what happens when you break the law. You gotta face your consequences. And
But think about the
I'm
recurring theme
not.
we keep hearing: fear. Fear on Person X's part. Think about the people on more that, we'll say, that Trump conservative side. Fear. They're coming in here. I don't even know what they're fearful of what's going to happen, but they're fearful. Democrats are fearful of it's going to be basically taking away everything that the Constitution stands for. Everything is fear-based.
Yeah, our government is fear-based. I mean, unfortunately, is it better to be feared or loved? In our government's
It's very
eyes,
Machiavellian.
it's better to be feared because you get in line.
But the problem with the human brain, though, is that when we're fearful, we literally cannot have empathy for other people. I mean, literally, psychology, philosophy, Christianity. Jesus talked about multiple times about fear and the role of fear and how much it gets in the way of loving other people and doing what you need to do. And yet, that's the playbook that we're in. I mean, Jesus did not have well, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. It's truth. And everything is fear. And if everything is fear, how in the hell are we going to care about each other? We justify any behavior that we do out of just, I'm fearful. Well, fuck that. They're going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's fucked. But,
So from our standpoint,
what can we do?
What do we do?
Yeah,
isn't that what we're supposed to be doing with this show?
Exactly. This is that beautiful part of the show where it's about action. We can bitch and moan all we want for an entire hour, but what is an action? So Person X, what is a realistic, non-pie-in-the-sky action that we can do that stands a chance of actually working?
That's a tough question, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess I can't speak for myself just because, like I said, I know what I did was wrong. But I would speak for the people that are wanting that opportunity. It's just, it's really hard to answer that. It really is. It's like, what can you do? Because something that might be good for me might not create that safety for the other person. They might still be in fear.
It's so complicated.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I mean,
what do you think, man?
Yeah.
I mean, what you've heard everything that I've heard. I mean, what is action? And I think it doesn't even have to be something legislative. I mean, what is the solution?
Wow, another loaded question. That's tough.
I know. We do that in a Greg.
I know.
That's what we do here, man.
So when you think about action and what can you personally do, again, it goes back to for me, it all comes back to humanity, right?
Yeah.
And you put it in perspective earlier when you talked about it could be your neighbor, it could be your coworker, it could be your best friend, and you never quite know what folks are going through ever, right? And a lot of people are good at putting a smile on their face and, for the fear, again, of if they take that mask down of who they really are, what's really going on, what's going to happen. And so for all of us, we may know many people in our lives that are like Person X that may be struggling with these types of things. So what can you do to somebody in your own network, somebody in your friends' network, in your family network, somebody that is facing a situation like this? And then what can you do to help that individual person? Because for me, as a born American, that's not something I'm ever going to have to deal with. It's just not, nor is it for you. But if we have folks that are in our network that we care about and they're struggling with these issues, what can we personally do for that person to help them? And that's an honest conversation of, okay, and Person X, I'm not sure who you've disclosed to and who you haven't, but those of the people that you care about that you have disclosed, what can they personally do to help you? And that's more of a rhetorical question. Yeah. But if somebody in my life was identified to fit into that same category, it's like, okay, well, it could be something as simple as, hey, as you mentioned, you've gone through several attorneys. And I can only imagine how much financial strain that probably put on you and your family. As we all know, that is another topic for a whole nother.
That's a problem.
You know, a whole nother show as far as the legal system in our country. However, just something as simple as, hey, you know what? Making a financial contribution to that person in your life to say, hey, I recognize you're dealing with this. I'm going to buy you and your family groceries this week because I'm sure your attorney bill is probably lagging, you know, somewhere up there and causing you stress. So for me, you asked what I can do for action. If there's anybody in my network who's listening who may also be in a similar situation to Person X, then reach out to me and let me see what I can do to personally help you.
Yeah. No, that definitely is a good one.
That was well said.
Yeah,
that was really well said.
Damn it, this was
you
my
made
show.
Me reflect.
I'm supposed to have that moment where it's like, wow. And you even got my mystery guest going, wow, that was well said. Damn it.
I'll be honest with you. You brought tears to my eyes because it really made me think. With my situation, I hate not being able to speak about it freely because I'm one of those that I don't want you to ever find out about me and think I'm a lie. You know, and I've been told from one person that, you know, no longer works with me, that who cares what people think? But it's just me, maybe, you know, that's a different topic. But, you know, what I got from this person was sincerity, and she empathized with me. And that made me feel good. It took like a weight off of my shoulders, being able to be like, can I come to you and tell you something where you could potentially use it against me and be honest with you, and for you not to judge me for what I've done made me feel like it made me feel wonderful. And, you know, this person, it's just funny. Sometimes I feel like, oh, do you know you're calling me? Like, you must know I'm going through something, you know? But just having that someone there to be able to vent to be able to tell them, hey, this is what I'm going through. And when I told her, I remember she was just like, I would have never thought that. You know, you're happy, you're always doing this. Yeah, you're right. A smile, a person will always hide it behind their smile, but you don't know what the person's going through. You know, but just being able to say, yeah, being able to go to that one person, that's all it took for me. You know what I mean? And saying, hey, this is me. I'm sorry, but if I don't want you to ever know, find out and think different of me because I've been sincere. And I don't want you to think, you know, oh man, like she did this, like, oh, I can't believe I even work with this person. You know, you don't know. You don't know what this people might perceive me as. Yeah.
And that's all humans want. We just want to connect with our faith, our families, each other. And we're so alone. That's the thing I hear in my office all the time is just how alone everybody feels. I mean, we have all this interconnectivity more than we've ever had before, yet people feel so alone, so judged. And in Person X, I think there's a lot of power in what you're basically saying of just how much it hurts to be isolated. And you see the current environment of how it contributes to that, but then also how amazing it feels to feel understood. And that's the thing of, if we're looking at actions, what the actions are, as Dominic so eloquently, is that start talking to each other again, whether it be in your friends network, whether it be your coworkers. Talk to people. Even if you have a very strong opinion, we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our children. We owe it to the country to start asking questions again. You know, it's easy to talk about fake news media, and I think it is completely fake. It is total bullshit. It is presented in one way. But you can't sit there in one breath and say, well, fake news media is all bullshit, except for my media that I watch. No, talk to people. Chances are every single person knows a Mexican, a Latin American, somebody who was an immigrant or an illegal or whatever. Talk to them. Talk to enough people about a problem, and they tell you something different. Eventually, you start going, I don't believe what this person is telling me because I talk to these people, and this is genuine. They don't have ratings to go after. They're not going after votes. This is just their truth. And you speak to enough people's truths, all of a sudden you start getting a different idea. That's like the whole point of what this show was. I was so damn sick of hearing all these truths that I hear in my office and then not be able to say anything about it because, patient-client confidentiality, and then to see the effect that it's having on them. Like Person X, talk about the things that you're going through. Those are things that I see echoed by so many people. And eventually you get to the point to where it's like, okay, if other people knew what I knew, just truth, stories, you form a different opinion. And that's where I think it starts. Hearing people's truths, hearing their stories, hearing enough of them. Don't just take one person's story. Like Person X, you said you went and talked to a bunch of people to get their stories. Everyone's story is different, but yet there's commonalities, but you still start forming an opinion about what truth is. And then if we have truth, we care, we have humanity, and then all of a sudden we start being able to talk about real, solutions. This is such a big issue because we have to do something about it. As humans, what's the point if we're just so siloed, so just only caring about ourselves? What the hell's the point of all this? What's the point of America being America, that beacon of light? What's the point of it if it's all for naught, if it's all about being selfish and us just putting ourselves on a pedestal and looking at ourselves in the mirror and telling ourselves how awesome we are? And what the hell's the point?
Isn't that the great contradiction of democracy and capitalism?
Yeah. And that's the thing is that
times have changed, huh?
I know, and that's, and that's where today is a start. Today, I think, is a great start, and Person X, I know you feel so alone, but I think by you coming out today and people hearing your story, people all of a sudden are going to have a different viewpoint of this. And I think there's probably other people listening, maybe in your situation, that make them feel less alone. And there's so much power in that. And I can't thank you enough for having, the courage to come on today and talk about these things. And frankly, trusting us to, help tell your story, and trusting us that we're going to protect you with that. And so I can't thank you enough for doing that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, and it really was awesome. This is by no means we're definitely going to be continuing on with this. I encourage you to, on Thursday, we're going to be doing another installment of this debate, but we're going to now be talking into the socioeconomics behind it, of why are people leaving their homes to begin with? What role does America basically play in that? So I'm really excited that, and depending on the feedback that we're going to get from people, maybe Dominic will be here, maybe he won't. I don't know. I am so excited to hear the feedback, But one thing I can say, if he starts having better closing lines than I do, Dominic, Flash Gordon over here is going to have an awful accident. I don't know what might happen. Flash.
You bring up Flash Gordon. That's ironic because I had a conversation about Flash Gordon not only an hour ago.
Oh,
that's very
Well, we'll have to go to your story.
Very weird.
At some point. Dom is lucky to be with us right now. He Flash over here.
I was thinking more of. I was like, is this a Jerry Springer ending segment?
Oh no! I'm gonna leave it as a mystery, because I think that's supposed to be good radio. I got to tune back in to find out what happened to Flash over here. It is actually. We'll leave it at he's lucky to be with us. So
that'll be my radio nickname, Flash Gordon.
I think Flash Gordon. That's it. I think it has. I mean, Dominic is cool, but I like Flash Gordon.
Whatever works, man.
It works, So that ends another installment. I think our guest, Person X, Dom, our temporary part-time future host. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with it. But I enjoyed it. Dom, did you have a good time with us today?
I had a great time.
Person X, how do you think Dom did? Do you think they did all right?
Yes, he did. Like I said, I liked his moment he had.
Well, funny thing is, when I was really thinking of people that I want to be part of this, it was like Dom was one of them, and I had a couple good friends of mine that I was like, God, these people would be great because I want the show to be just hanging out, talking about the things that we talk about when we're drinking beers or smoking substances. I don't know. And that's really what I really, I just wanted. And so I think it did all right, but once again, we'll let the people be the judge. We'll put I should put like a poll up on the Facebook page.
You should.
What did you think of Dom? And then the second one should be, what should Dom's nickname be if he is on the show? I'm voting Flash Gordon, but I'm going to let everybody else come up with their own kind of nickname. But on that note, let's wrap this thing up here. We got some beer to kind of drink, and I think I got some dinner. I think, Dom, you gonna hang out here for dinner or what?
Of course.
I think, yeah.
Mike's a great chef, just so everyone in the radio world knows. He not only is
I've heard.
host, but cooks up a pretty mean meal to go with it too. So,
well, I made some really good gumbo last night. Some legit gumbo. Now, Chris, one of the co-host owners of the network, I had to email him a couple times, like, "Hey, is this the correct way of doing a roux?" Because he's from New Orleans. So, so maybe we'll do a separate cooking show one of these days. Cooking while we're talking about famous issues while drinking at the same exact time. So just so many different.
That'll be a good combination.
so many different ways to go with the gray, but that's why it's gray. You can go any way you want with it. So, on that note, everybody, thank you for joining us for the 5th installment. Hopefully, there'll be a 6th. We'll find out. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But thanks for everyone joining us. Dom, thank you so much. Person X rocked it out. Thank you so much. And everybody, I'll see you next time on the Gray.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Gray Matters Radio with Michael Devine. For more episodes and information, visit us online at graymattersradio.com. Join the conversation by following Gray Matters Radio on Facebook and Twitter. Gray Matters Radio is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more live episodes of this and other great shows, download the free HC Universal Network app at hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, remember, think about the gray.